Okay, folks, it is 6 o'clock, so we are going to call this meeting to order. And we want to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation. I would ask everyone now to stand for the national anthem. Thank you. Now, first of all, I'd ask everyone to be sure that their phone is shut off or on vibrate.
No,
We don't need it ringing. And our first order of business is an oath of office by Bill McDonald and Miss Kathy.
yes. You can go ahead. You can read your declaration.
Yeah, push that.
Yeah. Very good.
In the Township of Central Frontenac, do solemnly promise and do declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof with the exercise of this office in the biased, corrupt, or any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III. I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
Thank you, Bill. I will sign.
It is official.
It is official.
Somebody's microphone is making noise. Okay, welcome, Mr. McDonald. It's been years since we've sat here together, but we did sit here together for years as well. So, yes, go ahead.
Madam Mayor, member of the council, staff, public, this is the second time I've been appointed to council. The last time I made allegiance to the Queen Elizabeth, well, that'll tell you something. But it was 37 years ago that I was appointed to the Oso Township as a councillor. And from then on, it was many, many years and many positions within the township and the county. But I appreciate the confidence that you put in me. And as I say to the guys when we start a job in the morning, pitter patter, let's get at her.
And that we will do. We have a big agenda tonight. So we're going to start with motion moved by Cindy Kelsey, seconded by Lynn Clegus, that the agenda for the regular meeting of council to be held April the 14th, 2026 be approved as. Are there any amendments, Kathy?
No, there are not, Madam Mayor.
So as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest by any member of council on any item on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll note that in the minutes. Moved by Bill Everett, seconded by Bill McDonald, that the minutes from the regular meeting of council held on March 24th, 2026.
You can't sign it because he was not here at that meeting.
Okay.
Correct.
So Dan Meeks is going to do that. You just didn't know it. So moved by Bill Everett, seconded by Dan Meeks, that the minutes from the regular meeting of council held on March 24th, 2026 be approved as presented. Any amendments or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Mayor's remarks, a few things that I need to talk about. One is the Charlotte Lake webcam update. The current webcam is not working. A report will be presented at an upcoming meeting with 3 options, including costs to replace it. And just a note on that, I have seen people, especially people with cottagers on the west end, saying, I wish that cam was still on the building because they could see what was happening down over the lake by the government dock. So the webcam is good. I used to look at it when I worked in Madoc, felt like I lived there, to see what the weather was doing here for my drive home. So it might be good if we can get it going somewhere. Volunteer Appreciation Dinner is April the 18th at Circle Square Ranch, and we expect about approximately 130 people to attend. So that's pretty good. An information session for residents considering running for municipal council will be held Monday, April the 20th at the Community Hall from 7 to 9. And for further information, contact any of the municipal offices, and they'll talk about what it's going to be. Any idea of what numbers you might be expecting?
None, Madam Mayor. So it's with all of the Frontenacs are joined in on this session, and our 2 speakers. Years ago, we used to have Fred Dean and Nigel Belchamber, but this year Kelly Pender has agreed, and David Mundy from Cunningham Swan. So they'll be there.
And even if you're not thinking of running, you could go and listen in as well. All right. Does anyone have anything else to add? Nikki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had the pleasure of attending with, Lynn was there as well, the egg drop up here in Charlotte Lake on Easter weekend. And it was a great event, very well organized. The team from the Charlotte Lake Rec Committee did a very, very good job. And there was very little crying. So I considered it a huge success. I was out at the farmer's market, the spring fling on Saturday, and it was nice to see those vendors come back out and happy to see spring here. And there's a Touch a Truck event, the 2nd annual one, on Wednesday, April the 29th at the Parham Fairgrounds from 5 to 7:30. Our Public Works team will be there. The fire department will be there. We've got LD Power Sports, North Frontenac Telephone, Frontenac Power, and there's a free barbecue. And then everyone's welcome to come out and have a tour of the vehicles and see the people that run them and touch the truck.
And those trucks are amazing. I happened to see one up close, too close, but they are just amazing. So it's worth seeing for big and young. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move on. Our first is a delegation from the County of Frontenac Planning Services presentation, and it's not Joe Gallivan, it is Sonia Bolton who's taking Joe's place. I hear he's under the weather.
Yes, good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. I am here representing Mr. Gallivan tonight. He sends his regrets, but he is unfortunately under the weather and not able to make it. So you're stuck with me, but that's all right. Thank you very much for putting the presentation up.
Sonia, can you just speak right into that?
Right into it?
You have
Is
that
a little bit-
quiet voice.
Okay. Sorry, I'll speak a little bit louder then too. Okay, no, that's great. So we have been coming out the last few years to give each of the township councils that we do the planning services for an update on in terms of the billing that you receive from us, where that comes from in terms of the work that we did last year, as well as looking a little bit forward to what we're working on this year and next. So we can go to the next slide, please. So basically, I'll touch really briefly on the planning services agreement that we have with yourself and the other townships. Look a little bit at the 2025 planning workload that we had as a department, including for yourselves. And then, as I said, talk a little bit about what's coming up this year and next. Next slide, please. So the planning services agreement was started back in 2018, and it was signed by all 4 townships and the county. So we currently do the day-to-day planning services for 3 of the 4 townships. So yourselves, North Frontenac, and then Frontenac Islands. South Frontenac has signed the agreement, but they have their own planning department. However, several years ago, they were very short-staffed, and so a couple of members of our department stepped in to assist, and they were able to use this agreement They paid for that time that they had our staff, but we were able to do that for them at that time. So all of our planning hours that we work on, both for county projects as well as all the township projects, are tracked, and that includes the director, myself as the manager, and then our planners as well. It does not include any student intern that we hire over the course of the summer. And then the annual billing is actually based on a 3-year rolling average. And the reason we decided to do that is there may be a year where, for one of the townships, we're working on a really big project for them, such as when Mr. Gallivan was working on your township official plan, right? And what can happen is those kinds of projects accumulate a lot of hours, which could really increase the spike in the number of hours and therefore the amount of costs for that year. So we spread it out over the course of a 3-year average. So it helps eliminate those peaks and valleys that you can see sometimes in the costing. Next slide, please. So this graph here looks at the total planning hours from 2023 to 2025, which is the 3-year rolling average that this year's billing is based off of. So Central, by far, has the most planning hours of the 3 townships in the past 3 years, so just over 2,500 hours, and that's about 44% of the township hours across the 3. But your 3-year share has actually declined. So if you look the bottom, 19.74 was your previous 3-year share, and this year it's actually 18.05. So even though your number of hours went up, the amount that you're paying has actually gone down, and that is because the number of hours that we have spent on county or regional projects actually went up, and so that offsets, and I'll talk about that in a little bit here. Next slide, please. So this looks at the total township planning hours from 2016 to 2025, and this again is for all 3 townships. You can see in 2021 and 2022 the spike, the increase in hours. That is very much tied to the COVID-19 pandemic, people sheltering at home, not traveling, and instead spending their money on home improvements and additions and decks and all sorts of things. So during that time period, we worked almost exclusively on development applications across all of the townships. Again, since last year, we actually saw an increase last year over the 2024 year in terms of the number of applications. So the total planning hours for the township was just 1,915. So that's a 9% increase. And for Central, you saw a 24% increase. So we'll go into maybe some of the more details on the next slide, please. So yeah, so there was an overall increase in 9%. Central and North, you both saw increases. The islands did see a decrease, but part of that reason too is previously we had been working on a secondary plan for them for Marysville. So a lot of policy hours there and less so on the development. But many of the hours or most of the hours that you see, particularly in Central and North, are very much related to development planning rather than policy planning. And then to the next slide, please. So this shows the number of hours just for Central Frontenac from 2016 through to 2025. And again, it mirrors what was happening in, of course, all of the townships with the years surrounding and just following the pandemic being the busiest. And then also, again, showing an increase from last year. Next slide, please. So again, for you, it was an overall increase of 24% from 2024 to 25, going from 44 applications to 56. What I will say here is that the delegated authority bylaw that you passed a couple of years ago for the undisputed consents has helped considerably in the amount of time that we spend on each of the applications. So 25 of the applications that you had last year, or 45% of the total, used delegated authority. So these are consents that we get no inquiries from the public, no questions from anyone, no concerns from technical agencies, and when there are no comments, then we still review the file, we still go through all the comments, we prepare a memo, but it goes to Madam Clerk and CAO for their signature instead of coming to the committee. That saves staff a lot of time in terms of we don't have to write really lengthy reports, we don't have to do presentation slides, and there's also a time savings for the applicant as well because they're not waiting for the monthly meeting with respect to committee of adjustment. So one of the things in terms of I was thinking about the overall increase in the number of hours. And I will say there was something last year that was a little bit different. I think as we've now had about 2 years with the delegated authority for undisputed consents. And what has happened in that time is you no longer have a separate day or night for committee of adjustment. You've amalgamated that into the same day as council, having it at 5 o'clock. I know that I understand that there have been some discussions about trying to put the committee onto the same agenda as the council, because right now you've got a 5 o'clock start and then a 6 o'clock start, which can be challenging to manage because sometimes you could have 5 applications and be done in 45 minutes, or you could have one application that takes an hour and a half. You just never know. So there were several instances last year where we actually had 2 committee of adjustment meetings a month to try and just deal with the load that we had, especially over the summer. And when that happens, we do lose some of our efficiencies, right? So as part of the service agreement, originally we had planned on 1 committee of adjustment per township per month. And when I had started 5 years ago, one of the things that I did is I worked with North Frontenac, and they agreed to move their monthly meeting to the end of the month, so that generally your township and their township committees are meeting about 2 weeks apart. That helps us as staff manage our workload. And so unfortunately, when we were meeting twice a month, sometimes it's extra work for township staff, but it's also extra work for county staff. So I have talked to township staff. I know they are sort of looking at what the options are for making that a little bit more seamless. And we're working really closely with Abby to do our best to try and stick to that 1 meeting a month. It just ends up on being in terms of workload as well. So that is something we've got our eye on for sure. Next slide, please. So in terms of just a breakdown of some of your hours here, in terms of some of the work that was done in 2025. So pre-application meetings, inquiries, it's about 23% of the total. Report writing, 21%. That used to be much higher, but with delegated authority now, I think we've cut that almost in half. The Charlotte Lake School site redevelopment, we did put about 20 hours into that. And yeah, we did do some work on additional severances, and some of that preliminary work leading up to the OPA, which I'll talk about in a little bit here, was about 21 hours. So the majority of the planning application files that we have, again, not including the time that township staff spend on them, but as planners, we are averaging less than 10 hours per file. There was one file in Central, it was the minor variance on Long Lake, that did have 36 hours. So that definitely above average, but it was a more complicated, complex file. Next slide, please. So in terms of overall numbers of planning applications, again, this graph shows sort of an aggregate at the top, and then the bar graph is all 3 of the townships. So you folks are the light gray in the center, with North in black and the islands in the darker gray. And then next slide, please. So again, I think historically, Central it's always sometimes a really close race between you folks in North Frontenac, but you've generally had the most planning applications of our 3 townships since we started tracking this back in 2016. So again, we had an overall increase last year in the number of applications from 94 to 119. You had 12 additional applications, North had 5, and the Frontenac Islands had 8 additional applications. And then next slide, please. And then this here breaks it down in terms of not only the township and showing the total, but the different types of applications. And you can really see with the delegated authority consents, so 25 out of 56 of your applications, so that's almost half, are being done through that delegated authority process. And overall throughout the county, I think we're at about 45 to 47%. So again, that really has helped us achieve some efficiencies. Next slide, please. And in terms of the county planning hours, so we actually broke a record. We had a record high of county planning hours since we started tracking this in 2016. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So yeah, so generally our goal is to spend about 50% of our time on regional or county work that benefits all the townships and all of us in Frontenac. And, prior to last year, or the last couple of years, it was certainly difficult to do that over COVID. Most of our time and effort went to development application conservation review. But we have seen an increase of 22% from 2024 to 25, and we actually spent 62% of our hours on those regional planning projects. So a lot of the major projects, there was the community planning permit system, which Dmitry Kurlovich has been managing for us. That was about 250 hours. There's communal service work. We continue to support Frontenac Municipal Services. That was about 223 hours. And then the county is also the approval authority for township official plans and official plan amendments. And last year, we received the final version, adopted version of the South Frontenac official plan. So we put about 75 hours in terms of reviewing that and taking it to county council for approval last year. Next slide, please. So in terms of what we're going to be working on this year and next year at the regional level, we have the Regional Natural Heritage Study that is currently underway. The first Natural Heritage Study was done back in 2012. This one is going to be a departure from that in that we're using a new model that takes an ecological systems approach and really looking at a 100-year vision of what is Frontenac going to look like in 100 years and what do we have that is important to protect, because we know our greatest asset is our natural assets, because that's what people value in terms of why they live here. It's also what they value in terms of why they come to visit us. So that will be a major project. It will actually go throughout this year into next year. And we are anticipating spending a good chunk of the summer doing consultation sessions in each of the townships as well. So there will be more about that. The community planning permit system. So this is the permit system for waterfront development that we have been working on behalf of all the townships, where we're getting very close to having a bylaw template that is done and ready. We want to show it to the lawyers first and get their blessing that things are on the right track. But that will be presented to county council, basically with the direction then to share it with the townships. And then it will be up to each township to decide how and when they want to implement it. We do intend on continuing to work. We have like a team of township staff. We're going to continue to work with them, because I think what makes the most sense is for one township to kind of go first, make the modifications, we do the mapping for them, we kind of implement it and run it in the background in-house to make sure that we're got most of the major bugs out, and because somebody's got to go first and not everybody can go first. So we're very excited. We're getting very close to that template being done. And we still do spend time supporting Frontenac Municipal Services Corporation. We anticipate, obviously, it's a lot fewer hours than it was previously now that the utility has their own staff, but we still serve a support role, particularly as they start looking at development applications and how the utility will be used to provide services within the county. And then we are also in the process of updating the county official plan. Again, this will be something that is consulted. Each of the townships will be consulted on, but really, it's not a major overhaul. It's a very high-level plan. We leave the details up to the township official plans because they're your townships, and so it's a high-level regional plan. And we're looking at a couple of different amendments. So the first amendment will be making some updates and changes based on what has changed at the provincial level, which seems to change daily, but we're going to bring it as up to date as we can and stay on top of that. And then once the natural heritage study is done, there will likely be an amendment to the community or to the county official plan for that as well as the fact that we are currently working with Watson and Associates economists to update the population, housing, and employment projections. So there will probably be some changes coming out of that will also have to be reflected in the county official plan. Next slide, please. So in terms of projects for the township or the various townships, so we later next year, we'll be looking at starting the update to the North Frontenac official plan. We are going to be working on some zoning amendments for the village of Marysville on Wolf Island. So they had a secondary plan done. They have updated the official plan for the village. We now need to finish that off by actually changing the zoning, particularly for the main street, to make it a little bit more business friendly. The zoning is very out of date and is a bit of a constraint to small business owners who are trying to set up shop or make some changes and additions. We're still looking at moving ahead with official plan amendments for communal services. And then obviously we're going to continue to support the redevelopment of the former Charlotte Lake School site. But that, of course, is dependent upon other forces and funding, but obviously we're here waiting with you whenever we hear about next steps. And I do know, as I mentioned before, I was here. I did some preliminary work on an official plan research for basically an official plan amendment for an additional severance. So we are going to proceed with that this year, and along with that will come the water standards that I had talked to before, so that everybody has an understanding about what is required for a safe potable water supply when new lots are created. Something that I think has been in the forefront of more people's minds, particularly since last summer's drought. My understanding is this summer isn't sounding much better. So that will be coming forward this year as well. And I think there's one last slide. Yes. So we always have this. Our intangibles are kind of the same every year because they're intangible. But there's always the volume of planning applications. So we had been going down consistently since COVID-19, and then saw a spike again last year. And so sometimes that ties in with the market. So we really don't know until it actually shows up on our desk or through the phone or email. Also, some of the applications, even if we don't have more applications, some of the applications are becoming more complex. All of the easy properties are already developed. So some of these applications do become more complex. Some get appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal, particularly if we're working on the township's behalf. We did one recently. And but that, of course, you don't know until that comes in, and then you have to allocate the resources necessary to that. There's the unexpected planning issues, such as continued provincial changes, which is almost a full-time job monitoring, but that's okay. We will stay on top of those. And then also subdivision applications. I think it's still going to be a couple of years, but particularly with communal services, we may be getting more interest in developing subdivisions on communal services. And because the county is the approval authority for subdivisions, that may be something that we have to be more involved in as well. But I think we're still a couple of years away before we see an uptake. I think once you see the housing development in Verona, built and up and running in the next couple of years, I understand from a lot of people, they're watching that very closely. There are a lot of people interested in communal services, but they'd like to be second, so which is understandable. But anyways, next slide. Yes, so more than happy to answer questions from council members.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Bill?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With the changes that are coming from the province in regard to the conservation authorities and their mandates, how do you anticipate that those changes are going to affect planning throughout the area where they help us now in zoning and official plans and such?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's a good question. One of the biggest blows actually happened a couple of years ago when they removed the ability for the conservation authorities to provide comments on natural heritage features and areas. So right now, they only can comment on natural hazards. I don't see that role changing in that natural hazards play very much into public health and safety, which is a priority of the province when you look at flooding, erosion, wildfires. So I suspect we will still have access to staff at the conservation authorities in terms of review and their expertise. I just don't know where they'll be located and what configuration that will take.
And what the cost may be.
And what the cost may be.
Philip?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to ask Sonia, you highlighted again the fact that Central Frontenac has the most applications of the 3 townships, and it just kind of pops to mind, is it more because of our rules, or are the rules similar enough across the 3 municipalities that we just have more planning activities, or are we more stringent that we have to see more applications?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I don't think it's about being stringent. I will say I don't know the numbers for South Frontenac off the top of my head, but I do know when I look at them on a year-by-year basis, so just anecdotally, generally South Frontenac has the same number of planning applications in a year that all 3 other townships have combined, right? So I think part of it is just proximity, right? You have a large volume in South Frontenac because they're quite close to Kingston, they're quite close to the 401. The numbers tend, for North and Central, I feel like It doesn't have to do with your rules. I think there's a lot of similarities, certainly with us doing the planning services in the three of them. As we go along, if we can try and harmonize things or say, hey, you know, North is doing this, you should think about it. Or we say, you know, in the islands, hey, Central's doing this, you know, so we do try and, I mean, ultimately it's up to that township council. I think it's just more a fact of that, particularly since COVID, for yourselves and for North Frontenac, I think you've been found. I think that, you know, the days of it being rare for development in Eastern Ontario, I mean, we're not going to turn into the Muskokas overnight, but there was the Muskokas, there's the Kawarthas, and I think just as people move away from the bigger urban centers, we're just seeing more and more activity here.
We really are God's place. Lynn.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. You did mention briefly about the subdivision that's happening in Verona with the communal services, and that everybody would like to be second, not first. Do you have any time frame for having that be completed that others will start getting more interested in doing another subdivision in another township?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So that one isn't precisely a subdivision. So it's actually a series of stacked townhouses and small apartment buildings on individual lots. And I think they have to go through zoning and site plan. So the county hasn't been directly involved in that. It's been an entirely township run project. Their biggest hurdle that they have had, even though we now have the utility and you don't have to have the municipal responsibility agreement, their biggest hurdle has still been the Ministry of Environment rules. So they are probably into year 5 of their environmental assessment, which is one of the reasons it has taken so long. But thankfully, our utility is working very diligently with the province to try and moderate the requirements for environmental approvals so that you don't take 100 units and treat it the same way as you would a traditional city service for 100,000 homes. Like right now, both go through the same process, and it's very onerous. So with Verona, my understanding is that construction will begin in the next couple of years, but I'm not actively involved, so I couldn't give you really any better timing than that. Yeah.
So, but it's quite a few years down the road, because it would be discouraging to think of somebody else jumping into this quite yet when it's taking so long.
So one of the reasons that the utility is advocating very strongly at the provincial level for these rules is that a private developer is not going to tie up their money and their capital for over 5 years for 80 units, because that's about what they're building is. They're building about 80 units. A private developer is just not going to do that. But I mean, the township had the resources to say, you know, we really want it done. We want it done this way, and we want to own it, manage it. So they're going down that road. They've made that choice, but it would be a completely different story right now if it were a private developer. So, you know, they are going to be first on communal services, and then there will be another project, hopefully in Frontenac in the not too distant future, that gets to be the first with perhaps some moderated environmental rules that are more appropriate for the scale of development. So somebody else does get to be first. It's just going to be in a different framework.
And Nikki, did you have your hand up? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. You had mentioned, Sonia, thank you for your presentation, and you had mentioned about the severances. We have, as you know, anxious people that are waiting to apply for that extra severance. Do you have you said later this year in your presentation, do you have kind of a timeline that we might be able to alleviate some pressure?
So yeah, I don't like to make promises. We do have a number of other projects we need to wrap up in other places, but it would be my hope that before the end of the summer, because I did all of that work last year in terms of that research, we don't need to go through that again. So basically, we need to look at providing water standards, which there are already ones existing elsewhere. So we're not creating those from scratch. We need to put together a draft to give to you, and then it will just be a matter of having a public meeting and then passing the bylaw. There was certainly support for it. So based on everything that I learned last year from the research, it's not going to be a long drawn out official plan amendment by any stretch. So
we're close.
Close. Yeah.
Closer than we were.
Yes. And if I can find a way to clone myself or perfect time travel, it will be even closer.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you very much. Good report.
You're very welcome. Thank you. have a
Well,
good
tell
rest of
Joe
the
that
evening.
you replaced him very well.
Okay.
And
Thank you all. Have a lovely evening.
I have a motion moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Philip Smith, that council receive the presentation from Sonia Bolton, director, no, you're not the director, manager of Planning and Economic Development regarding planning services for information. All those in favor? Carried. And next we have Tina and Roland Goodfellow, who want to talk about road allowance and reconsideration of the property value. Come to the table, just push that button. There we go. You're good.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just gonna. Okay, okay, Vanna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is my wife, Tina Goodfellow. We have a parcel of property on Eagle Lake, with several parcels.
That mic right to your face
Sorry.
there, so, okay.
We have several parcels on Eagle Lake. One is eliminate the road allowance. It allows us to have a greater flexibility where we build. Okay. Early on in our process, we had an appraisal done privately for ourselves. We did that in another piece of property because we're going to realize capital gains on another piece of property or capital loss. So initially we have the documentation from Coldwell Banker. Sorry, there's more.
There's more.
Yeah. Sorry, this is a statement of opinion.
Right.
And there's one comparative from 2025, which is there's 4 transactions, but it's actually one parcel. This is what Cole's note version gives you: the PIN number, the square footage, the price per square foot, and then added on are the details we've got from the registry office of what the parcels involved. And from my vision, there's no comparison between the 2 parcels. I assume everybody on council is familiar with it from last year. I'm not. It actually extends from Highway 7 to the lake. So it's a reusable lake road allowance, or can be used by other people. Ours is totally landlocked. On the south side, there's the CPR railway track. North side's a lake. So there's no ability to go anywhere other than simply for us to use the good property that's there. So that's the 2 pages from Coldwell Banker. It's a statement of opinion. I'd like to show you what the valuation we had done. A little more involved. It's a residential appraisal report. Sorry, Tina.
I don't think you need to hand that
Okay,
out.
no, okay, okay.
I think unless somebody from council would like to see that.
Somebody wants
Yeah. I think basically what we have is the number here of $20,500
Correct.
was the amount that Dennis LaRock came up with. Questions, comments? Normally we get an appraiser, do we, for these, or
Or
just-
letter of opinion as well. yeah.
Okay, so we only have one letter of
Yeah.
opinion.
You want to speak to that, Abby?
I'm so sorry. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Council. Our policy currently allows for 2 different methods of calculating land value for the purposes of road allowance closures, and they are described in Section 5 of the policy. And it says that land shall be valued using one or both of the following methods, which shall be at the township's discretion. Using the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation assessed land values for the lands on either side of the road allowance to be closed, and averaging out a value based on the area of land to be closed, which is not the most accurate method. There's information in my report that was circulated to council in the agenda. And the other method is for the township to obtain a letter of opinion of value from a real estate appraiser or agent to obtain fair market value for the section of road requested to be closed and conveyed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Susan?
Through Madam Mayor, Abby, don't go away. Because I have a question about the policy. Is there any provision in the policy for exceptions or special circumstances to be taken into account? Because we have the property appraisal from the Goodfellows, which is 9,280. We have the one from MPAC is totally unrealistic in my view, but we have the Township's appraisal at 20,500. So a discrepancy. So, and I appreciate that the Goodfellows are coming here asking for, consideration. And so is there any guidance in our policy? Because they're, policies can be flexible. They're a guiding tool, but
Yeah, thank you through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Irwin. In the policy, to my knowledge, there's no exception mechanism or mechanism that provides township staff with the discretion to make a decision. That's why I told Tina and Roland to make a request to come to council as a delegation for a reconsideration of the value.
Because council would have that authority to use our discretion somewhere between the 9 and the 20. And I think that's why we're here today, is
Absolutely.
because there's such a wide discrepancy there. So somebody should throw out a number that they'd be happy with. Nikki? Or at least a starting place. Well, I'll be an auctioneer here.
You be an auctioneer. Thank you, Madam Mayor. What would you think is fair to, like, there was no number on our report.
Right.
So like, what are you thinking is
The
fair?
appraised value of $9,000. That to me is, I think, it's more than fair because there's value to us, but only to us. It'll extend our frontage, allow us to vary where we can extend greater mobility for where we look at a cottage moving forward. And basically it's 95,000 square feet, of which 18,000 are actually usable because it's all swamp. There's 66 feet of frontage and there's some depth. You asked me how much? Less than $20,000? How's that for a starting point? I realize as the municipality moves forward and gets rid of surplus land, it's going to be more critical there's a better process in place and more legitimate than a statement of opinion from a realtor. Appraisals cost me $800. I think it's good value. I pay for value in my legal counsel, my accounting, and appraisals. So I think it's a fair valuation.
I think the problem that we're all facing right now is that things have gone so out of whack with what they are selling for that we who have had this land over the years and lived here all of our lives cannot believe that people are selling things for the prices they are.
Absolutely.
And it's driven up the cost so much.
The affordability for locals is horrendous.
It's, yeah. Dan?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. So to my understanding is the value of the property is only valuable to you guys. It's landlocked, so it's not beneficial to anybody else
Correct.
but you, right?
Yes.
Nikki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So you're looking at a number, I'll throw a number out at $10,000.
I was going to throw out that same number. Bill?
Just a question of clearance. This is a concession?
Correct.
And how do you, I have a picture in front of me here. Is that run between the railroad track and Eagle Lake?
Yes.
And how do you access that?
Water from Parham Landing.
Okay, all right. And so it becomes a lot addition to your property, in other words. You're closing it, stopping up. Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, all right. So we have $10,000 on the table that may be acceptable to the
We're
Goodfellows.
accepting 12.
12,
Yeah.
all right, that's even better. See? Tina, he didn't tell you that. I think 12 is a reasonable offer. What does council think? 12, I see nods. Okay, let me read the motion and we'll see if they put their hands up with their nods. So we have a motion that is moved by Dan Meek, seconded by Susan Irwin. The council received the presentation from Tina and Roland Goodfellow regarding their request for reconsideration of the fair market value related to the stop-up closure and conveyance of a township road allowance located at is missing for information. And further, the council received the staff report entitled Request for Reconsideration of Property Value Road Allowance Closure for Information. And further, the council approve a value of $12,000 for the subject road allowance. I'm going to put 12 in there. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried. We've got a deal.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then whatever the next steps are, Abby will work with you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Now we have Ron Couchman, who wants to talk about some new information on Alto Rail.
I apologize if I look like a bit of a chipmunk. I got a root canal about 3 hours ago. To All right. So Madam Mayor and councillors, thank you for allowing me to be here today. I recognize you made an exception due to short notice, and I appreciate that. It's been a difficult few weeks to say the least. Just to start off, in my personal relationship, we start every discussion with the simple recognition that regardless of what's going on, we're on the same page and we're on the same team. And so I want to see this room in that way. I think we all ultimately want to do what's best for Central Frontenac. And so I want to start from that point.
Andy, can you shut the door, please?
I want to talk a little bit about the role Township Council can play in Alto decision making. I do understand, obviously, the jurisdictional differences are pretty far apart. And some people think that giving feedback doesn't make much of a difference. But from our research, the Alto maps and info sessions, as well as recent, if anyone's seen it, an Alto survey that they were paying $25 Amazon cards for people to complete to give feedback, is nothing more than Alto asking the public to do the research that they're being paid to do. In their surveys, there is no way to indicate a rejection of the project, only portions to highlight as particularly important, meaning all of their feedback is positive, likely so they can assure officials that opposition is limited. This is one way that council, as other councils can can make a difference. Although it is clearly outside the jurisdiction of municipalities to try to change the course of the project, consistent opposition from communities and their representative may end up making a significant difference. As many know, I run stopaltonow.com, as well as a Facebook page and group of the same name. I've been doing meetings every week, just like the town hall we did in Sharbert Lake. The next one on the 18th is in Arden. I also work with much larger groups like Alto, where we're actually gathering a great deal of research, either from Alto, about Alto's decisions or impacts. We're working with universities and researchers, geologists, and making sure any research that Alto does do can be scrutinized, and we have research of our own that we can share. We have been tracking geological planes and their flight paths that are publicly available. The initial planes appeared months ago, regularly just over McDonald's Corners, and they quickly moved to be traveling through the southern route. As university and private researchers outside of Alto began sharing research that illustrated the negative consequences of taking the southern route, the townships firmly rejected the project. The movement of the planes quickly moved north. They have recently circled Silver Lake, Sharbert Lake, including my property, Arden, and 4 other towns along the northern potential route. Specifically, there seems to be a correlation between the locations of flight plan changes and how vocal oppositions to Alto seem to be through online groups, and also how firmly elected officials reject it. This is a preliminary correlation, of course, and we acknowledge that there's likely a lot of other contributing factors. Through our consistent freedom of information requests, we've learned that they've done almost no research of their own on the feasibility or plausibility of either study, except for we found a government study from 4 years ago that actually indicated that this project is not feasible, ironically enough. So all of the data they're getting is from the surveys, the information centers, the maps, and reading community feedback at this point. I suspect there will be more critical research if a plot is chosen that moves forward, but at this stage, feedback is pretty much the entirety of the research. Official stances from townships can work to convince those considering the route that it would face less opposition elsewhere, or that the impacts here would be too great, not only to our communities, but are incredibly biodiverse ecosystems. In addition to this, motions and formal oppositions from council can offer huge support to the shareholders represented here by council by legitimizing their concerns. This can cause some people to feel justified in speaking out for the Alto project who otherwise wouldn't have the confidence. Further to this, we plan to gather all public motions and oppositions letters from all communities to present to Parliament later. Plans are being prepared for this as we speak. The way I see it, debating strong opposition to Alto project is akin to questioning whether or not God exists. I've pondered this many times myself. My conclusion was the same. If I believe God exists and act accordingly throughout my life, I may find my belief was real and I end up in heaven. And if it turns out God doesn't exist, I still acted as a better person throughout my life and by living with integrity and honesty. No potential negative outcome. If I refuse to have faith that God exists and act as if my actions don't matter, I might find God doesn't exist, or I might find myself in my deepest regret. What I found here is there's no possible upside to not believing and acting accordingly. Inversely, there was no downside to assuming God is real and conducting myself accordingly. I see making strong opposition to Alto projects the same way. Even if the outcomes may be trivial by comparison, if your position carries weight, you look back and be glad we did what we could. Your shareholders will see representatives did everything in their power. And if we're wrong and it accomplishes nothing, we've lost nothing more than a few minutes. There's no reason not to. Because shareholders almost unanimously reject this project, I hope Council considers strengthening language to make clear that they will reject Alto project as proposed, completely and unequivocally, because it does not and cannot offer benefits to our shareholders. It is well within responsible representation to say things like irreparable environmental damage to animal migrations, or we firmly reject any project that takes land from our community that will not benefit them. This won't close any doors if they suggest a new project or a train that would stop in places that could benefit this community. Because we're simply rejecting this particular project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Ron? I do have a comment, and that is, I saw something on Facebook about coming to the council meeting so that we support you, but we do support.
Absolutely.
Alto, no.
Of course, yeah.
We have met with the people here. We've told them that we did not want them to come through our area. We have sent a motion out. We're going to send another motion. Some of us have been to the open houses that they had and talked to them. I don't know what else we can do, but you're doing a good job. You keep at it. We've got other business we have to do.
Of course.
But we will be there if we need to give another no to Alto, whether it's the Charlotte Lake or the northern route that they have proposed.
Agreed. This council has been against Alto, and I greatly appreciate it. I just knew also Nikki was putting forward a motion today. I appreciated the language that she used but I found it a bit soft. So I was hoping that when you read the motion today, you consider some of the words that I said while you're doing it.
Well, the motion is as it is unless we do an addendum to it, but also County Council has sent a motion as well. So I think the local politicians are on it. So it's good to see that the community is as well. Thank you. I have a motion moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Lynn Clegus, that council received the presentation from Ron Couchman regarding new information related to the Alto Rail High-Speed Train Project for information. All those in favor? Carried. Public meeting, there isn't one. Consent agenda. Moved by Dan Meek, seconded by Cindy Kelsey, that items A through F be received for information as they are considered routine. All those in favor? Carried. Heritage Festival minutes, Rec Committee, those are all parts of that, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No deferred items.
Nope.
Staff reports. And our first one is Andy, Building Services. Hello, Andy, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. And our motion is moved by Philip Smith, seconded by Bill McDonald, that council receive the construction details building activity report for March 2026 for information. Questions or comments for Andy? Andy, or do you have comments for us?
No, it's pretty average year if you look at the previous 2 years. So.
Now that the snow is starting to leave us, there's still banks in some of the roads, unfortunately. But the mosquito or the black flies will be out soon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, nobody has questions? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. And moved by Bill Everett, seconded by Cindy Kelsey, that council receive the capital projects report as presented by the chief building official for information. Discussion? Nikki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Andy. I have a couple of questions. In regards to the Oso Hall tender that you have out, I know that $20,000 is to some a lot of money, but in construction, it's not. What's the goal or the plan to try and get done there for the $20,000? Then I'll ask you the second question.
All right. Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Gowdy, the goal there is to box in the electrical there and create a electrical room, drywall the ceiling, modify some of the cabinets around the stove there so it's a little more safe for fire reasons. Yeah, we'd like to do more, but there's talk of expanding it, but I still don't know if we have access to that room in behind. So for now, we're just going to try and do some drywall and make the kitchen look a little better.
Okay, thank you. And my second question is about the Trailhead washroom. A lot of people are inquiring as to what the plan is for the old bathroom.
Currently, we don't have a concrete plan for it. I believe Public Works would like to keep it for storage, and we could do some work to it to make it a little more presentable, but I think it's worth keeping. Yeah.
What would Public Works want to use it for?
Yeah.
But that's okay for wintertime, and then it could still be a use for the summertime?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of change rooms so that the kids that want to make messes could do it in that building instead of the other one. The toilets, I don't know that we'd want to keep them there, though. We'd get rid of those. But make a change room. Anyway.
Yep,
Dan.
we're open to ideas.
Dan has an idea.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. When we talked to the courts, the square footage on that hall, could we exclude that one back room to open up for future renovations for the kitchen would make quite a difference, because I don't think they really need that part of that in behind the main wall.
That's what we're looking into.
Because the courts did actually renew their rental agreement. It's
And we have not had an answer back yet, or even a call back from, because Michael even called. So we're gonna have to go after them. And it is very difficult to find out who actually is involved in that.
it's got to be a judge somewhere along the
Yeah,
line.
probably.
Do something wrong, you'll find out. No, don't. Dan.
And the Olden Hall's looking good, Andy. Be nice to see it completed, but had a lot of good comments on it so far, so that's really good. Thank you.
That's good to hear. There's a hold up on the doors, but hopefully they'll be installed in the next few weeks.
Good. Okay. All right. All those in favor? Carried. And moved by Susan Irwin, seconded by Lynn Clegus, that council authorize staff to apply for the Enhancing Access to Spaces for Everyone, EASE, grant program for the 2026-2027 intake period to support the installation of parking lot lighting at the township's 4 community halls, and that the proposed project be scheduled for implementation within the eligible funding period October 1, 26 to October 31st, 27. And the staff be authorized to undertake all necessary actions related to the preparation and submission of the grant application. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. All right,
you.
that is it for building. Now we have Public Works. Okay, and our first motion is moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Dan Meeks, that council receive the Public Works Activity Report as presented by the Public Works Technical Assistant for information. Discussion. What about those potholes? I'll be the one.
Through you, Madam
I have a
Mayor.
lot of them.
I know there's a lot of potholes and I sympathize with everyone, but we tried to get out there. We tried a couple days last week, but the weather didn't cooperate and it didn't cooperate again this week. But looking forward into the weather forecast, next week is looking a lot better. So we'll have all the graders and whatever we have to grade roads next week will be out.
Excellent, excellent. Everybody will be really glad to hear that. I can hear them clapping. Good, good. All right, Dan.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I just want to say thanks to Public Works on Easter Sunday for the fast reaction, the hole that showed up in the road due to a culvert. So anyway, thanks for that. Could be a very different outcome if we didn't react that quick. So thank you.
So there was a hole in the road? Which road? Really? Something underneath? Yeah. Wow. Bill? Oh, push that
The other
again?
one. You ran one, this one.
Okay. Through you, Madam Mayor, first of all, I haven't been here to thank the Public Works Department in regard to the effort that you've put in this year. I know from past years' experiences that winters like this are very, very hard in which to provide service for everyone, but I think you've done a pretty good job. But I just have, looking forward, I'm wondering with the fluctuating price of fuel oil, and all of our equipment runs on diesel, of course, and if the price keeps fluctuating, do you have a plan in which to carry on if the price of diesel fuel goes up to $5 a liter, which is possibility under today's world conditions? I'm just wondering if you comment on that. Thank you, Madam.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Well, we have some projects that we're hoping are going to be under to hope compensate for some of this. I know one project we have, I'm fairly confident that we estimated enough that it will cover this fuel cost, but again, we won't know until everyone bids on it. So I'm hoping. I didn't expect for fuel to go to $2.50 a liter. So
Yeah. And do you think our winter operations will be within what we budgeted, or do you think it'll be a little over since our winter was a little over the top?
through you, Madam Mayor, I think there's going to be some spots where it's over because it was a long drawn out winter and very unusual winter from the past few winters we've had. So
Okay, yeah. All right. Nothing else? Oh, Philip?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I just ask the Salt Dome where we're at with the RFP or tender process?
Hope you guys speak into that, Mike.
through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I followed up with the engineers. They hadn't heard anything from the GO people yet, so I sent an email today to them, and so we're waiting to hear back before they can move forward with the RFP. So we need that study first before we go ahead. So
Okay, so hopefully this year. All right, all those in favor? Carried. And moved by Bill McDonald, seconded by Lynn Clagus, that council receive the Property Cleanup Program Ticket Dates Report as prepared by the Public Works Technical Assistant, and that council approve the recommendation of the Public Works Manager to continue the Property Cleanup Program for 2026. And now therefore be it resolved the council approve the recommendation of the Public Works Manager to continue with the Property Cleanup Program for 2026, including the dates outlined in this report. We're just changing the name of it, right? Was it called that last year? Really? I missed that. It's a good title. Questions, comments? Does any have a problem with the dates? They're all good? Okay, so spring and fall? All those in favor? Carried. All right, waste tags. Moved by Philip Smith, seconded by Cindy Kelsey. That council receive the bag tag report as presented by the Public Works Manager for information, and that council approve the recommendation of the Public Works Manager to transition from the current garbage bag program to a bag tag system, and that staff be directed to prepare and present amendments to the waste management bylaw to support implementation of the new system. Questions or comments? Pardon? Nikki and then Bill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. How many garbage bags do we have in stock now? Are you going to get rid of all of those garbage bags before you bring the tags out? Because it would be a lot easier for people to go to the tag and then we end up with a stockpile of garbage bags that you still have for sale. And then I have a follow-up question.
Through you, Madam Mayor. This came forward too because we're right at the time where we need to start ordering more bags. So we're down to about a skid in a little bit, and that won't take long to go here very shortly. And if we have some left over, we could use it for Earth Day cleanups and shops, and we wouldn't be long getting rid of skid of them if we switch to the tags. We don't have a whole lot right now on stock, but if we don't do this, we have to go ahead and order the bags like tomorrow.
Okay.
Mind you, we do have to give people some notice so that they can get their bags ready, since they're used to coming here to get them. Unless we buy some bags, or tags. Yeah, anyway. Did you have a second one, Nikki?
Yes, please. Under financial implications, it said that we did not budget enough to cover the garbage bags. Was that just a miss? Look at the budgeting part of it? Because it is just the end of Q1, and I know you're saying you're getting ready to, you would have to order more, but it just seemed odd that you would be so over budget just after one quarter.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Some of the bags were carried over from 25, and so I don't know. We usually sell, well, I think it was in the report, 49,000 bags. So, do you want to speak to that?
Did the price go up on them or something?
Because there's a specialized type of bag, because they're the they're biodegradable, sorry. Because they're that kind of a bag, they are more expensive. So, and I'm only seeing the price go up every time we order them. So we ordered these ones late last fall, and we're already at our last skid. So now instead of ordering them once a year, which we were doing in the past, now we're doing every 6 months.
So it's doubled.
It's doubled.
Okay. Lynn.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I see in the report you talk about people transitioning to use any clear garbage bag. Do we have, what if people put a tag on a black or green garbage bag
That's
and
a
tow it
no-no.
in? Will we be actively stopping them from dumping? Like, what happens to that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, they'll be refused. They won't be allowed to dump it until it's in a clear bag and we can inspect it and ensure there's no recycling in with the garbage. So
Then we really need to have a push on advertising. And it should have gone out in the tax bill so that the non-residents will be aware as well. Bill, I skipped over you, didn't I? No, you knew I was coming back.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can still complain. I have to admit, I unequivocally disagree with bag tags. Prior to 2011, when the Waste Management Committee transitioned to bags, we picked a year and we chose 2008. In 2008, the township sold about 52,000 bag tags. Now, my company, which has never exceeded 3% of the population, took over 20,000 bags to the dump. So 97, 98% of the population went through only 1.5 times what my customers and my drivers took. And yes, it is inconvenient and a hardship and it's extra money, but I've seen people cut tags into 4 and wrap them around the tails. I've seen people slap the tags on the side of the bag, and as they put them on the ground, they walked away with the tag. And I think we're actually going to lose money as opposed to saving money. Thank you.
Okay, Cindy.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So the public will be buying clear bags, correct? So how do we differ from a normal garbage bag and a construction clear bag, right? Because there's different size of clear bags that you can have. Are you gonna like double tag a construction size one to the other one? Like, I don't know how you would differ with that. And with Bill, also in the cold weather, years ago, those tags would just fall off the bags. They would not stay on the bags just because of the weather.
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Gowdy, or sorry, Councillor Kelsey and Bill Everett as well. So when I did the research on this, it was later last year when we needed to order more bags. So I actually reached out to all of our neighboring municipalities and how they do the process. So they're not as concerned with the size of the bag necessarily, because it's an expense to that household, which it would be the same as here. They said, and how they deal with the bags and the tags and everything falling off is they specifically have it in their bylaw, which is what something, you know, we would have to do, is that you would wrap it around where you tie it so the tag actually sticks to itself. So it would glue to itself. And then some of them also have like secret little imprints on them, so that way you know if they were cut or if they were damaged or if they were, you know, reprinted or, you know, whatever the case may be. Like, we can get them numbered if we wanted to, and they, however we want to get them built, basically. And that would obviously deter from who's bringing not right garbage.
Do the attendants know about this, and what do they think about it? Because I do remember some controversies that happened way back when we first started with bag tags.
To you, Madam Mayor. We had brief discussions about it. They find it would be beneficial because they're steady running here for bags, and you know, they're running out of bags or whatever, where the tags, they could have a stack of them, and I don't know, it seems easier and more economical right now. But
I guess the other thing that's different from before is there should be a limited amount of garbage that's coming, because most of it should be recyclables, right? So there shouldn't be huge lots of garbage. Is that true? Okay. Bill. The big one.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Steve. I'm just going to make a point on this, because I was around when we first started the tag system way back in OSO days, when we started recycling. And we actually gave out 52 or 104 free tags, and they were applied to the bag. And the idea behind that was to encourage more people to recycle. And if I remember the numbers right, before we did the tags, it was only 12% of the people recycled. And after we started the tag system, 77% of the people recycled some of the material. My point on this, I'm in favor of this, of anything that saves money. Taking into account Councillor Everett's comments, who were involved in the business, I think it would really do us important role would be to educate the public. And the fact that we are going to be, I don't know how you would do it, to indicate to somebody that we're going to be watching for those people that are cheating on this system. But I believe there are people cheating on the system right now, right? I mean, there's no way that you can, you stop at the gate, say in Olden, the attendant comes out and he looks at, and you've got 3 or 4 bags in there, but he doesn't follow you down to see what's underneath those bags, and all kinds of other stuff gets thrown out. And I'm guilty of it, because there's the odd thing that the bag was closed, and I discovered, oh, they wouldn't notice that. It's like the guy says, I just threw a toothpick out, but then if a dump truck, a load of toothpicks goes there, it takes up a lot of space. But I think we have to educate the public in a way that what we're trying to achieve, it's not being vindictive or causing somebody not to use the landfill site. It's just that we're trying to control cost. From my perspective, is we have to educate the public as to what we're trying to do. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Good old Facebook. Nikki and then Philip.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To follow up on Councillor McDonald's comments, we do put the ad in the North Frontenac News, and it is a half-page ad or whatever. So to take a few months and make sure that it's the lead part of that ad, as well as social media, it would hopefully hit the majority.
And also something to hand out at the waste disposal sites so that people who are coming will take it home with them.
Or I can hand it out at Touch a Truck too, because
There
the
you
chief
go.
had me hand out the Voyant Alert handout last year, and I handed it to every car that came in. So
Perfect.
I could hand that out in 2 weeks.
Philip,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to follow up on Councillor Gowdy's comment about the current clear bags. I know you have a limited supply, but we don't know how much supply individuals might have at their home already. So I just want to make sure, because I remember it being quite an ordeal when we switched from tags to the bags, that people had stockpiled the tags that they had. So if people have excess bags, I don't want us to penalize them for already have purchased them and then say, well, then now they're no good.
but they have Central Frontenac on them,
No, I
right?
know. I'm just saying,
Okay.
as long as we don't just say on June
Right.
1st, we're now tags and tags
Okay.
only.
Yeah. Sure. Yes. Okay. Is that enough bag tag discussion? Do we want to do this? All those in favor? Carried. Right.
Yeah, he's
There
against.
there was more hands than
Yeah.
on the on side.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Talk to Mr. McGovern in 6 months.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
Next.
and,
Oh,
question.
Dan?
Thanks, Madam Mayor, but we haven't discussed on the dollar per tag or less. What's your feelings on what it costs to buy a bag? And if we take a little less for the tag, then people might consider doing more than,
Because they got to
Not.
buy the garbage bags too.
yes.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we did a few numbers on it, and if we sell the tags for $1 a tag, it'd be similar to the bags we at $1.50 right now. What we get from them?
That our council's happy with that? $1 a tag? Lynn?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm just curious though, like if you could buy the bag for $1.50, you still got to go and buy a bag now, and you got to pay $1 for the tag. So,
much-
like I'm thinking as a taxpayer, it's gonna bags, I don't know, they're more than 50 cents a bag if you're going into a grocery store. It's not.
I don't know what they cost. Oh, right.
Sorry. So I was just saying it's a personal opinion from my own. I buy clear bags and then also buy the township bags, double bag them to make sure that there's nothing getting into them or, they're not ripping on the way to the waste site. Roughly what I've seen in my own shopping, you can get like a box of 60 bags for like $15-ish. Sometimes they're on sale and it's cheaper. Depends on the size of the bag you go with too, because obviously the bigger the bag, the more price.
If you're doing the math,
No, if you go to Costco and the online price, you get a bag of 500, a box of 500 clear garbage bags for $23.99. So that's really, really cheap, but I can do the math.
okay. Okay, so we're good with
I'm
that?
good with it.
Okay, all right. So that's, we don't have a motion for that, but that's part of the motion, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, we'll record that. All right, now we are going to moved by Lynn Clagus, seconded by Bill McDonald, that council receive the Waste Export and Landfill Expansion Report as prepared by the Public Works Technical Assistant for Information. Discussion. Nikki.
Thank you. As I was the one that pushed for this report, thank you very much. I did some research. I know that we didn't budget for anything, but my concern has been justified with this report. In February 6th of 2020, came and did a car count, did a full countdown report, and it said that in this report, we had 30 years of life left at Olden landfill. The report that came in just provided to you said that we're around 20 years. So in 6 years, we've lost 4 years. I'm not saying we didn't budget. I did say we didn't budget for this, but I think we need to start looking at an expansion, small expansion possibly. But we can't sit on it any longer. It doesn't matter how much we educate. In another 5 to 6 years, we're going to lose another 10 years or more off of our main landfill site. And that's the only landfill we have. And even if we have to divert garbage like they recommended, that's a cost. We didn't budget for that either. So we need to look at, I would love to put a motion forward to have staff look at this further and come back with actual recommendations to go forward with, because I don't feel comfortable putting garbage to the side in a lifestyle that we all live in. We produce garbage and need to deal with it. And like, I hope it's all right, Councillor McDonald, but your thought of what's underneath the garbage bags, we're human, everybody can do that, and it does happen. And that just fills our garbage sites up even quicker. So there's cost of fuel, there's cost of trucking, there's cost of looking at an expansion that could take 3 to 5 years, but give us another 7 years. Those are all things we need as we sit around this table and have to decide what's best for our residents. We need to look at.
Okay, Philip.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did have a question about the report. I was unclear whether the timelines projected were 5 to 7 years of capacity, or it was going to take 5 to 7 years to get an approval through.
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's 5 to 7 years for the approval, or 3 to 5 for the small one.
So if I can follow up, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Then what does 70,000 square meters get us for time frame?
I think in the report here, it says approximately 20 years. The small report would get us about 12 years.
And I'll tell you, 5 to 7 is a very good estimate, because there are people that have been waiting 10, 20 years for expansion approval. And there's lots that never got it. And so it's a risk. Lynn? Oh, sorry, Lynn. Steve, do you want to say something?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and all this is there's no guarantee to this either, if it will even be expanded, but you still have to pay the money and you still have to wait 3 to 5 years. So that's a gamble too. So
Lynn?
I have to say that I agree with Nikki that a more detailed report is time worth spending so we can make a decision about when we want to start looking into this. But we need a little bit more information than the brief report here.
And cost.
Yeah.
You need to know
like
what the cost
piece
is.
of it. Like a lot more information needs to come.
So staff can go ahead and get all that information for us without a formal resolution. Okay?
Yeah.
Bill?
Through you, Madam Mayor, Steve, I was just wondering, what would the cost of doing the analysis be in the neighborhood of to get an expansion permit? I know you put it somewhere in there. I've been trying to find it. I just thought you'd have that right tip of your tongue.
the small expansion would be 100,000 to 250,000.
Right. And is there any guarantee coming with that in actual fact, when that's done, that
No.
that we would get a permit?
No guarantees. No.
Right. Okay. The other thing that the information we have in regard to how long we had, how much life we had in our site was based before COVID. And we have expanded the population here in this municipality, probably double or triple what we normally were doing. And I think Andy could comment on that. So I can see where the numbers maybe will not fit today as to what they projected a few years ago, because we just have more use. And I can tell you, we need to do something to retain the capacity we have in our landfill sites. Because if we have to start shipping it out, you're looking in the millions of dollars on the taxpayers. You wouldn't count on Napanee experience that. So we should do whatever we can to expand the life of our landfills.
So maybe part of the staff research could be checking around to see if there's anybody out there that is small like us that may have put the money into doing the work to ask for an expansion, and what their reality is if they got something before we jump too far ahead. And this will really be a new council's decision maybe by the time we get all the information. Because it is a lot of money that just starts the process, and there's more money down the road. And there's no guarantees. Okay, so the motion tonight is to accept the information, and you guys are going to come back with some more information for us. All those in favor? Carried. Opposed again? All right, now we have a motion moved by Dan Meek, seconded by Nikki Gowdy, that council repeal bylaws 2004-156 and 2012-34, being the current parking bylaws, and that council adopt the new parking bylaw later in the meeting as presented. And for that council authorize a 30-day education and awareness period prior to the commencement of the enforcement. Discussion. When would we start the 30 days? Would we do it maybe closer to summertime or, pardon? Tomorrow. Okay, there you go. What's in the bylaw? Does the bylaw say effective when?
It would take effect as.
Okay, so then 30 days from tomorrow. Should it be 30? Should it be more? True.
Thank you, ma'am. The signs have been up since last fall, so there's a good education period that, oh, there's a no parking sign that
That's
hasn't
true.
been there before. So
True.
I think tomorrow is just a good day to
Good
start.
day. Okay. All right. All those in favor? Carried. All right. I think that's it for roads. Now we have noise bylaw, moved by Cindy Kelsey, seconded by Dan Meeks, that council receive the updated draft bylaw to prohibit and regulate noise in the Township of Central Frontenac for review and comment, and that council provide direction to staff on any requested revisions. So we've got some time to do that. Any discussion at this point?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When do we have to have our comments back?
Jody's going to tell us that right now. Turn your mic on.
Sorry, thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. To Councillor Gaddy, I didn't have a specific date. This is just one of those bylaws that need to be updated for AMPS. Does council feel is comfortable? I know you're reviewing a lot of things right now, so what do you feel is comfortable? 30 days? Okay.
I would say, yeah, a month. So a council meeting and a half for now. Bill?
Jody, through you, Madam Mayor, I'm just, are we receiving complaints about noise that the bylaw at the present format doesn't cover?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor McDonald. The bylaw officer does receive quite a few noise complaints, not so much this time of year, more so during the summer months, which is coming up. Currently, we enforce our noise bylaw through the Provincial Offences Act, which is quite expensive for the township. So this process is going to move our noise bylaw. There's be two main changes. Enforcement through the administrative monetary penalty system. And the second one is moving it from a decibel reading. So the bylaw officer goes out and actually has to record the decibels of what the noise is to a, how do we say that? I want to get the right word. No bylaw. It is to a clearly audible standard, which is what the majority of other municipalities using the AMPS process uses. Does that answer your question? Yep. Perfect.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions? Lynn?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. In reading through the bylaw with the changes that are happening, has the bylaw officer actually been looking through this? So if she is going out to be enforcing this, is it in a way that she's going to be able to do better with the enforcing the bylaws?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Clagus. Nicole has consulted with me on this bylaw. I made sure that she provided feedback before bringing it to council.
Good. Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Septic reinspection, moved by Susan Irwin, seconded by Bill McDonald, that council amend bylaw 2018-49, being the septic reinspection bylaw to revise Schedule B to set the septic reinspection fee at $125 per inspection with the amending bylaw to be brought forward later in the meeting. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Committees, Central Frontenac Rec, moved by Philip Smith, seconded by Bill Everett. The council received the minutes of the District 4 Working Group meeting held March 10th, 2026, regarding the proposed phased approach for the Hinchinbrook property, and that council approved the recommendation of the Central Frontenac Recreation Advisory Committee from the March 19th, 2026 meeting as follows. That council endorse and support District 4's working group for the former Parham School property proposal for Phase 1 and Phase 2, and that the working group prepare a more formal plan which includes costs and proposed sources of funds for Phase 1 and 2, and further that the township proceed with completing a severance for a minimum of 2 acres from the westerly portion of the property to be added to 1164 Wagerville Road, Fairgrounds, Ballfield. Discussion. Philip.
I think as council knows, we've sat on this property for a long time, and there's a group with the rec committee that's interested in doing some activities there. They've laid out some different phases. The Central Rec agreed that, you know, phase 1 and 2 seems reasonable at this step, and I think it was reasonable to approach council. We've talked about, as a council, what we would be doing with part of that property. We've always kind of implied that we'd want to keep part of it to use. So it's just kind of moving it to a next step of formalizing and approving what we want to do with the property.
So that's what Phase 1 and Phase 2 is.
Phase 1 and Phase 2, you know, the group is looking to do some minor work, right? Like, I mean, if you read their whole proposal, they have some grander plans for the property, but I think Phase 1 and Phase...
For this 2 acres.
No, for the whole.
Or the whole thing. But I mean, Phase 1 and Phase 2 would be for the 2 acre parcel. But it's stuff that they can kind of start working on now and work towards a future plan. So I think it's a viable plan for them to start working on and show that they're interested in it and get something off the ground so the community can show some support to the rec committee and group as well.
And will it be recreation stuff? Like, that's my question. If it's going to be recreation on the new 2 acres adjacent to the ball field property.
Community use. So, I mean, it was gardens.
Yeah.
Gardening is... Yeah.
Yeah. And the ball field property is ours, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to it's not the fairgrounds. It's the township property. So we're
It is the
off a
fairgrounds.
piece.
You know, there's a big sign there
Yeah,
that says
I know
fairgrounds.
that, but I mean, legally, the ownership of that land is the township's.
Yes, it is.
So we're severing off a piece to add to our own piece.
Correct. That would be the intent.
That's what I wanted to get clearer. Nikki and then Bill.
The District 4 Rec Committee did endorse Phase 1 and 2 as long as there was a recreation component to it. And it was suggested that they look at a soccer field, as the soccer association is in need of a permanent spot for soccer. So the working group is kind of taking that and running with it now. So yes, there is a strong recreation component, not just community gardens and stuff
Good.
to it. So they are working towards recreation on the 2 acre parcel.
Good. Okay. Bill.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I would support anything that's happening with that property because it's not going to improve in its health. It's deteriorating. So if there's a group that's willing to put some effort into it, I'm willing to support it as much as we should here at this table. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right. All those in favor? Carried. Okay. Moved by Lynn Clegg, seconded by Susan Irwin, that council receive the recommendation of the Economic Development Advisory Committee regarding committee membership, and that council appoint a member of council to fill the vacant councillor position on the Economic Development Advisory Committee resulting from the resignation of Councillor McGregor, And further, that council appoint Candace Harrington as a community representative to the Central Frontenac Economic Development Advisory Committee. Questions or comments? Bill?
Yes. Madam Mayor, is this in addition to the council that you're appointing another public and representative also?
It looks like it's in place of. No, it's in addition to.
In addition to, so we had another community member.
There's another motion down below.
Yeah, for the.
And then but
council.
we also do want another council.
I see that. There's a
It's
motion
right
below
below
this.
us, yeah.
Okay, so this would be the citizen representative. Okay. All right. Philip,
So it's an additional member, or you had a member leave the committee? I guess that's what I'm not clear of. And what the
Susan's got
process
an
is to
answer.
add them.
Through Madam Mayor, in response to Councillor Smith, and Councillor Clygus can correct me if I get things wrong, but the terms of reference were amended so that there are 3 councillors on the Economic Development Committee, and we increased the number of community members. So there's up to 10, I believe. So with the departure of Duncan, we have a vacancy in the council position, so we would be happy to have Councillor McDonald join us. And we need more community members. We got up to 10. So Candace Harrington is our proposal. She's expressed interest.
okay. Philip,
Does that fill the slate then of community members?
how many do you have?
One, two.
So that brings us to 7.
We have 4 people from the public and 2 counselors right now. We're looking to get a 3rd counselor, and then Candace would be a 5th person from the public.
So that'd be 8.
Mhm.
5 and 3.
So 10 public members.
10 total.
10 total.
Okay.
But right now, they're going to be at 8 with Candace and Bill going on, right?
That is, if Bill is willing to step forward to go on. I'm not going to presume that that's happening yet.
I would think he would.
I feel like I've on the edge of a wharf and someone says, if you don't agree with this, take one step backwards. So, I have
That's the next motion.
I have no problem with that.
Okay, all those in, Cindy, go ahead.
So the 2 final positions for public people then, have you advertised or asked in the public if anyone wants to join your committee?
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Kelsey, there have been ads placed. We have had a number of people on, but they don't, it's a demanding committee. And
I just want to make sure everyone has a chance so that people would know that if you wanted to join that committee, you're more than welcome to join it.
All those in favor, all those in favor, carried.
Can't vote for
And then,
myself, can I?
and the next motion is moved by Nikki and seconded by Dan Meeks, that council appoint Councillor Bill McDonald to the Central Frontenac Economic Development Advisory Committee to fill the vacant councillor position resulting from the resignation of Councillor D. McGregor. Discussion? All those in favor?
Oh.
Is it Mick or Mac? MC?
Mac.
All those in favor? Carried. Okay, committee and correspondence for action, none. Bylaws. Cemetery fees. Moved by Bill McDonald, seconded by Susan Irwin, that bylaw 2025-15 being a bylaw to amend Schedule B of the cemetery bylaw 202-08 be read a first and second and third time, finally passed this April 14th, 2026. Nikki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We had passed at our last motion that we were going to bring forward the updated bylaw in regards to the columbariums, the personal columbariums, and we told a resident that it would be dealt with at this meeting. All I see in the package is changing the fee, updating the fees. When will this be coming back? Because as that resident said, she'd like to bury her, settle her family members.
It's going to take longer than a month or so.
Okay. Has the resident been informed that there could be a delay?
Not at this point. I know Jody and Stephanie have been working on the report for coming forth for council. There's a lot of things in that council's going to have to direct with staff. It's not just a simple like we have the other one, because so far when we found out from the BOA or one of the regulations is they suggest you use a different spot within the cemetery. They don't agree with those being placed in with all the rest of the other plots that we have. The other thing is too is the size. Because right now we have there's lots of 5 by 10. You might want to consider smaller parcels to put those on. That'll save you more land that you can buy more. So there's a number of things that are coming forth. And unfortunately, there was no time that they had time to get it all done for tonight. So it's gone on and we also have the administration deals with their reports at the second meeting of the month. Because I don't like to mix them all up because then everybody's, you're doing, and it's too hard to try to get all that information together. So that's what's happening.
And the other thing we have to think about is liability of these smaller containing internment ashes and the liability that we have as the owners of that cemetery. And I think that's also something that the BAO is also concerned about is how much liability you want to take on. But I think we got to come back to council with what kind of questions we need to answer before we decide. Like, are we going to put them in all of the cemeteries? Are we only going to put them in certain cemeteries? If so, which ones? Are we going to parcel them off in different little spots? And how can we do that? In which one? So there are some more decisions that we have to make. So whoever's talking to the family, I think we need to let them know it's going to be a few months.
We can
before
certainly
that
let her know anyway as well that it will be coming forth for council to reconsider a little further and give further direction on what you'd like to see.
Thank you, Kathy. I think it would be nice to the family that they heard that from the township, not from us.
Absolutely. I'll give her a call.
Okay. All right. So all those in favor of the bylaw? Carried. Moved by Dan Meek, seconded by Philip Smith, that bylaw 2026-16 being a bylaw to regulate the establishment of and the enforcement of parking regulations in the township be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this April 14th, 2026. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Philip Smith, seconded by Cindy Kelsey, that bylaw 2026-17 being a bylaw to amend Schedule B of the septic reinspection bylaw 2018-49 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this April 14th, 2026.
Madam Mayor, can you find another mover?
Can I do what?
Find another mover.
Oh, sorry. I can do that.
Thank you.
Who else would like to move this? It was Philip, but how about Susan? Okay. Susan. I just have a question on this, and that is, I thought a schedule to a bylaw was something that could be done without changing the whole bylaw, which is why we put schedules.
Yes, that's correct, Madam Mayor. We can do it that way, but I think this one was a little different with the septic inspection.
Changing the schedule, not the bylaw.
Yeah, we're just changing the schedule, so.
So this is changing the bylaw to amend the schedule. We shouldn't have to have a.
Maybe it's
bylaw thing.
maybe the wording could be.
No, this is doing the whole bylaw. Anyway, you guys can figure it out. Yeah. This is amending the bylaw to amend the schedule of the septic reinspection bylaw. Yeah. Anyway, you can sort it out.
Yes.
Votes in favor.
Yep.
Schedule's updated. All good.
Yes.
That's right. Okay, all those in favor? Carried. All right, now we have a notice of motion. And that is from Nikki Gowdy, moved by Nikki. Who's going to second this? Cindy. Whereas bylaw 2024-41, being a bylaw for the licensing of dogs and prohibiting the running at large of dogs within the Township of Central Frontenac, was enacted on November 26, 2024. And whereas the council considers it desirable to amend the said bylaw by updating some definitions and changing sections 5.3, 9.1, and 2, and correcting a spelling error in section 10A. Now therefore it be it resolved that bylaw number 1 be amended as follows. Ooh, this is a long one. Section 5.3 is amended to read, every person who owns or harbors a dog shall remove and sanitarily dispose of any excrement left by the dog anywhere on the township property and from any other property that same becomes a nuisance or sanitary hazard. Section 9.1 is replaced with the following. No owner of any dog shall cause or permit a dog to run at large within the limits of the township unless the dog is a working dog. Section 9.2 is replaced with the following. Unless a dog is on a premises with the premises owner's permission, every dog shall be under control of a capable person. Section 10, a number 10A, Section 10A, the number 3 be replaced with a number 4 to correct the number to match the verbiage. Definitions. Running at large shall mean any animal as defined herein that is found any place other than the premises of the owner without permission of the premises owner and is not under the control of capable person. Definitions. Under the control of capable person shall mean a dog that is at all times on a leash or restraint of a maximum length of 2 meters and under care and control and capable of being physically restrained in such a manner as to prevent contact with people and other animals. Definitions. Working dog shall mean any dog doing useful work, such as hunting, guarding livestock, herding animals, or pulling wagons or sleds. That the clerk be directed to prepare the necessary amending bylaw for consideration at the not
No, it says
January,
January 13th.
at the June?
No, it was January 13th. That was when the
Oh.
motion was supposed to come back.
Oh.
We deferred it and it took time because it had to have legal opinion on it.
Mhm.
So I'm proposing that my motion be amended to the proposed amended motion that is there, and I just need a seconder to.
We're just going to change the date if that's okay.
Motion is not. It's not. He's amending the first.
You mean I just read all of that?
Well, I didn't know if I could have stopped you, so I apologize.
That's what the
I know what I'd
bylaw
like
says
to do
now.
with this.
But now you just have to go to
Now
her
you got the
proposed
next one.
amendment.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so we want to defeat this one. We got to vote on it. It's on
Yes,
the
we want-
table. With the date, it doesn't really matter. No, he's right. We're not going to table it. We got another one. It's going to replace it. So all those in favor? Opposed? No.
Because this is what the other bylaw was previously. Now she's going to make an amendment, which is down below to that one
I just,
that was already passed.
so
Little confusing, yes.
did we need to even read this?
No.
Through Madam Mayor, this second part is the version that was vetted by Cunningham Swan.
Yes.
Yes, good.
Don't worry, Bill, you are not the only one. Here we go. We're going to do this again. Okay, now therefore it be resolved that bylaw 2024-41 be amended as follows. Section 5.3 be amended.
Who seconded?
Oh,
Who
there's
seconded the motion?
Cindy did.
Cindy? Okay.
Or she did the other one. She's going to do this one too. Okay, now therefore it be resolved that bylaw 2024-41 be amended as follows. 1, section 5.3 be amended to read, every owner of a dog shall remove and sanitarily dispose of excrement left by the dog anywhere in the township property and from any other property where the excrement is likely to create a nuisance or sanitary hazard. Section 9.1 be amended to read, no owner of any dog shall cause or permit dog to run at large within the limits of the township unless the dog is a working dog on its owner's property or on the property of another person with that person's permission or under care and control of its owner. Section 9.2 be amended to read, every dog shall be under the care and control of a capable person unless the dog is on the premises with the permission of the owner of that premises. Section 10A be amended to reflect a redemption period of 5 days. Definitions to be updated as follows. Running at large shall mean any circumstances where a dog is present at any place other than the premises of the owner and not under the control of a capable person. B, under the control of a capable person shall mean a dog that is at all times while the dog is off its owner's property on a leash held by a person and under care and control and capable of being physically restrained by the person holding the leash in such a manner as to prevent the dog from biting or attacking a person or other domestic animal and to prevent contact with people and other animals. C, working dogs. Working dogs shall mean any dog doing useful work such as hunting, guarding livestock, herding animals, or pulling wagons or sleds while engaged in the performance of work, and that the clerk be directed to prepare the necessary amending bylaw for council's consideration. Discussion. Bill? Don't ask why.
Pardon?
Nothing.
I did through you, Madam.
Go ahead.
There's a couple of issues that I have with this. As a matter of fact, nowhere are we recognizing that dogs are controlled by what are those invisible fences. My son has 2 dogs. He's got 2 acres of land, and he lets the dogs out, and the dogs never leave the property because he's installed an invisible fence around the property. Now, when he takes those, he brings those dogs up to our property. We have 300 acres. And he goes back and he lets the dogs go because of beaver ponds and all the rest of it. And they're not on a leash, but they're under his control because he has collars on them and he can retrieve them at any time. But we have to recognize that we don't always going to have a dog on a leash that's 2 meters long or whatever, because there are occasions when dogs that are not hunting, they're recreational dogs, and they do run loose on property, larger piece of property. So somewhere we have to recognize that nobody's going to be contacted by the bylaw enforcement officer and fined because they're dogs running on their own property at large and not hurting anything. So how do we incorporate that? So,
Bill?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just reading section 9.1, and it's on the owner's property or on the property of another person with that person's permission or under the care and control. This says if you've got 300 acres in your permission, it's only if they run across the borders.
Yeah, as long as it's on your own property, it's okay.
I was concerned about having them on a leash.
Yeah.
In the hands of a capable person.
I have 2 dogs that if I put them on the leash, I'd be flying. Nikki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That portion of the bylaw has been removed. The leash and the length of the leash has been removed.
That's true, yes. Lynn?
I was just going to point out that in section 9.1, it says on the owner's property or on the property of another person with that person's permission. So if your son comes over and you give him permission to let his dogs run on your property, that is okay.
It's clear.
Yeah.
I feel it is.
All those in favor? Carried. All right. Now, here's an alto motion. Moved by Nikki and seconded by Philip. Whereas the Government of Canada is advancing plans for high-speed rail corridor in the Quebec City-Toronto corridor, and whereas the municipalities along or potentially affected by the proposed corridor may experience impacts related to land use, infrastructure, environmental conditions, emergency services, and community planning. And whereas municipalities require timely information, meaningful consultation, and opportunities to provide input into the planning and development of the proposed high-speed rail project. And whereas Council previously directed that correspondence be sent outlining municipal concerns and requesting engagement with senior levels of government. Therefore, be it resolved that Council directs staff to forward an additional letter to the Honourable Minister of Transport outlining the municipality's concerns regarding the high-speed rail project and requesting meaningful consultation with affected municipalities. And be it further resolved that the letter reiterate the municipality's request for transparency regarding route selection, environmental impacts, land acquisition, and potential financial implications for municipalities. And be it further resolved that copies of the correspondence be sent to Minister Steve McKinnon, Scott Reid, MPP, Lanark, Frontenac, Honorable Mark Carney, Martin Imblue, President of Alto, and all neighboring municipalities and relevant municipal associations for their information and support. Discussion. Nikki.
The letter that I submitted with this motion was to try and help staff not take up as much of their time, but I am willing, completely open to having any alterations to the letter if people feel that the wording needs to be stronger or something needs to be changed. My whole point with this is that we just don't have enough information to make a meaningful decision. We haven't heard any benefits to our municipality, and I'm very concerned, as I've said before, about if the train goes through and we have road block now, we have to invest more money in road deliveries for winter maintenance, summer grading. We have to have more money in for emergency services. There's a potential to have to build more fire halls, more ambulance bases, because our times are going to be different because there's only so many ways to go around the train. These are all things that as a municipality, I'm just concerned over.
Susan.
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Gowdy. First of all, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to draft the letter. And I understand that, you know, it's kind of an olive branch to reach out to the federal government for further consultation and information. In a sense, we've already made a decision. You said to help make a decision, but we've already made a decision that we do not support the Alto proposal going through the route that is affecting Central Frontenac. So I think that should be made clear in this letter. It's an opportunity to say, you know, we've made this decision and here are the reasons why we've made the decision. You can still say, how are you going to address them? But I think it, as Mr. Couchman presented, I think we need to be stronger in expressing our concerns. You talk about the fact that there's no community, no benefit to the community. It's an opportunity to seize on what we heard when we had our special meeting, and that our environment is our economy, and it has potentially negative implications for our economy. Not just the fact that there isn't any benefit, there's no stop, but it can interfere with our tourism economy. And I think that has to be made very, very clear. I also am struggling with the national benefits. As clearly, it benefits urban residents traveling from one city to another. I'm not persuaded, and I don't think we have to get into it, that it's a national benefit. It's only, you know, Toronto to Quebec City. It's not benefiting BC, Alberta, you know, and there's no business case. Like how, what's the cost benefit analysis that we can subjugate rural interests for urban citizens. I understand.
We're
that
not going to
young-
resolve it tonight.
No, I know, but so, sorry. I will just say that I think that we could be a little bit more forceful in the presentation. And it's an opportunity. You remember last point, when we had the special meeting, and I asked if we could attach the letter concerning White Lake. Because the more information we can attach to our letter, the more we're going to get the attention of the minister. So,
Bill and then Philip.
Through you, I haven't been involved.
Push the button, push the button.
Button.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it now. I haven't been involved in the discussions up to now, but I've been staying informed in regard to the issue itself. And I can fully understand why the federal government has not come out and said where this thing is going. Because it would lead to land speculation by people outside of our own community coming in and trying to buy up the land that was going to be designated for this rail and hoping to make a killing on it. So the point I would make is we have to be informed. It's the unknown that everybody's upset about, is that, well, there are other reasons that people are upset also, but if this is designated as a national interest, I don't think that really they're going to push it through whether we like it or not. So the best benefit, if we know where it's going, then we can prepare accordingly. But I support the letter. So
my question was going to be, if there's modifications to the letter, how do we approve the motion but change the letter so we're not 2 months out from sending a letter?
First of all, this is the motion. There will be a letter separate
Okay.
with the motion as, here's a motion that was passed by the council. And I think that letter could start by saying, we do not want this train in our community. And I think we also should say that this train should go along 401. So there's a stop in Kingston. So Eastern Ontario doesn't have to drive to Peterborough or Ottawa to catch a train, because we now go to Kingston. I don't know. That we could say so much that
I'm happy we're opposed to it. I don't want to push it onto another community either.
But
they
Kingston
seem to
wants
want it.
it.
That's fine. They want it, but I don't think we should jump on a bandwagon and say, here, it's good for them in the South.
But it's good for us because we could go to Kingston to take a train. I'm not going to go to Ottawa to take a train, and I'm not going to go to Peterborough to take a train.
up there at 180 miles an hour, it's not going to be in our community very long.
Okay, it's getting late. So the motion as it stands is what we've got. And if people want to add some lines that you would think should be in a letter,
Just let us know.
then let the Kathy know. And she can craft the letter and put this motion in, that this is the motion that was presented. And we can take White Lake's letter that they
Yeah.
sent to us and
Yeah.
attach it as an enclosement. Okay. All those in favor? Carried. No alto here. All right, there's no giving of notice of motions, no new or other business,
No, there is not, Madam Mayor.
no closed session.
No.
So I got a motion moved by Cindy Kelsey, seconded by Bill Everett, that bylaw 2025-18 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular council meeting held 14th of April, 2026, be read a first, second, and third time, finally passed this 14th day of April, 2026. And for this meeting be adjourned until Tuesday, April 28th at 6 p.m. for the regular meeting of council. Council chambers at 14216 Road 38, Charlotte Lake. All those in favor? Carried.